The FNAF movie has officially started filming, and Matthew Lillard is cast as the main antagonist and lovable psychopath William Afton. But who will perish at the hands of the real-life Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Purple guy? Our hopes and theories are what we're exploring today, so let's do it. And let me know what you're most excited for with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Apparently, PETA really hates fountains, if you've seen that clip on Twitter. And at 10, Henry. Now, there are many ways to consider Henry a victim of Purple Guy, but he's first on the list because not many of them are like as direct as the others on this list. Like, while we do see Henry killed by Baby in FNAF World, in the main series games he lives on to FNAF 6 where he burns in a fire, supposedly by his own hand. Unless Baby kills him before the fire, since he, like, cut her off when she was trying to do her whole thing, but that's just speculation. However, Henry was also the victim of Purple Guy's crimes when Charlotte died, as seen in FNAF 2 and FNAF 6, as well as in the books, since Henry lost his daughter Charlie to William when she was only 3 years old. Remember, when someone takes a life, the one who dies isn't the only victim, alright? Their friends, their family, anyone who loved the victim are victims as well. Okay, so this also extends to Henry's wife, who we don't know the name of as far as I know, since she may not even be alive in the games. So she could also definitely be alive in the movie, especially if William and Henry are. So we might even see both. That's a 2-for-1 deal on number 10, you're welcome. And at 9, Charlotte. Charlotte is one of the most troublesome victims that Purple Guy had. Being the first victim, Charlotte gets killed outside Fredbear's family diner, despite desperate attempts from her father, Henry, to prevent this. Mainly by creating a security animatronic designed to be a puppet to protect other kids, but treat her as a priority. Remember the green bracelet thing? However, when it gets trapped in a box, it's unable to make it out to Charlotte in time to save her. So, in another attempt, the puppet saves her in a different way, allowing her agony to reach out and take hold of the animatronic. As the puppet, Charlotte then went on to share her gift of a second chance with the other animatronics, bringing them to life as well, resulting in William's ultimate undoing. So, in a way, Charlotte really is the one you should not have killed, but just like in like a name sense, not in like a character sense. Since if he had spared her, maybe none of the other animatronics would have been alive and he wouldn't have gotten killed or spring-locked or whatever. And also, if you want to stay up to date on the FNAF movie news, be sure you hit subscribe, because as soon as we actually find out something concrete, and that wouldn't be like a 30-second video, you'll know. And at 8, Cassidy. Cassidy is probably who you expected to be number 1 on this list. The generally assumed one you should not have killed, the missing children's victim who went on to possess Golden Freddy, at least if you believe Golden Freddy to be an actual animatronic and not a hallucination. Cassidy is described in the novels as a young girl with long black hair, which also is the description of the only human to appear as a picture in the FNAF survival logbook, or security logbook, depending on if you read the crossed out name or not. I call it both. The name Cassidy was also discovered in this book when a theorist going by username DPowerful1 took wrong or highlighted numbers from various pages and put them into the word search as coordinates, in essence, which has got to be the most complicated name drop in history, okay? Like, we dig through source code, we put like audio files through spectrograms, we put them on reverse and speed them up and trying to find clues, but this was even too much for this series, okay? Like, I don't know why you had to go make things so complicated, but timely pop culture references aside, I don't know if Cassidy's going to be in the movie, given how the screenplay is the Mike screenplay, at least going off what Scott said on Reddit years ago. But in that post, he also said that he scrapped Cassidy's screenplay, so I doubt she'll be a major player, but she could still show up. And at 7, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was an unintentional victim of Purple Guy, given that Elizabeth was in fact his daughter. Yeah. In the aftermath of his murder den closing, Afton sets up shop in a new restaurant he owned and operated called Circus Baby's Pizza World, where the feature animatronics were actually giant murder bots hungry for the flesh of children, because, you know, that's what the series has come to. Or at least that's what it had come to, and then it got worse. He warned his kids to stay away from the animatronics, especially his daughter Elizabeth, since she had such a fascination with the main star Baby, but she didn't listen, because of course she didn't. She's a goddamn kid, and you made the animatronic specifically to attract kids. So, in a moment of ultimate regret, she ends up getting scooped and insta-killed while Baby's arm grabbed her, pulled her in, and then like crushed her in her storage unit. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. And while he didn't kill her directly, he still killed her, okay? And then even victimized himself, since, you know, it was his daughter that got scooped, and the friends and family of the victim are also victims. This then leads him to discover his passion, but then this leads him to discover possession, and agony and like the remnant metal thing. So yeah, I don't know how he knows that it was agony that did the possessing, but this then completely changes his motive. So it's a pivotal death in the purple guy chronology, so hopefully it'll be in the movie. And at 6, Gabriel. Gabriel was one of the original 5 missing children from the first ever incident that we learn about in the games. We believe his soul is passed into the Freddy animatronic based on the gravestone ending and the placement of the FNAF 3 heads. Gabriel, though, hasn't really ever gotten much of a description, aside from a brief mention in the books. But that description could also be referencing Jeremy, and based on Crying Child from FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames, it could also be him. So there's not really much validity to it, but I mean, I don't know, he could still show up. I wonder how Gabriel feels about being the mascot of the company, in essence, which is kind of weird. Like, he's not getting paid for it. And with over 25 versions of the character being present throughout all of the games, I originally had a theory that we played as someone named Gabriel in FNAF VR, since we ended up getting stuffed into a Freddy animatronic at the end of the game. But yeah, then I thought that Gregory from Security Breach was going to be a Gabriel comparison, because like, you know, whole hiding in Freddy thing, Gabriel's in Freddy, but then he turned into Crying Child. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe that's who Grant Freely is playing, since it's a supporting character in the movie. Maybe that, I don't know. Halfway through into number 5, Fritz. Fritz is also one of the original 5 missing children, being the victim who possesses everyone's favorite animatronic Foxy. Well, everyone else's favorite. My favorite's still Toy Chica specifically, because that one's not possessed. I guess in a way though, it was meant to be, given that both of their names start with F and are shorter than the other names. It kind of worked out way too perfectly in that sense. The others actually have similar names to their animatronics as well. Gabriel has the same amount of letters as Fazbear, Jeremy has the same amount of letters as Bonnie, Susie and Chica have the same amount of letters too. I don't know, it's freaking weird, man. But not much else is known about Fritz, and that's why I'm saying all this jargon. It's to extend the runtime of the video. There originally was a theory that Fritz was going to be a good guy who wanted to help the player in FNAF 1, but that was debunked in Ultimate Custom Night during an April Fool's update where Foxy's mechanics were changed to instead block one of the doors, and then this was also like said to be a joke by Scott, and he also added other mechanics like having Phone Guy and Springtrap connected, referencing the Phone Guy's Purple Guy theory and all that. But considering how Asher Colton Spence has been officially cast in the FNAF movie, I honestly, my first thought when I saw that kid was that he looked like a Fritz. Okay, his name is Asher, but he looks like Fritz. Orange hair for like the most orange animatronic, it makes sense to me. Okay, tell me, look at this kid and tell me that he doesn't look like a Fritz. He certainly looks more like a Fritz than a Gabriel or a Jeremy. Alright, speaking of which, in it for Jeremy. As I've said in multiple videos, Jeremy is the biggest fucking troll name in FNAF history. Being used for 3 separate characters, none of them being connected, and only 2 of them are actually direct victims of William Afton. Jeremy is the name of one of the original missing children, and as I said earlier, goes on to possess Bonnie. And the other Jeremy is a playtester for the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience. The one who was testing the game before Tape Girl, who ends up finding Glitch Trap and then goes insane. And by going insane, I mean like genuinely ends up having a psychotic break. Jeremy ends up cutting off his own face, which is interesting given that the Withered Bonnie animatronic as seen in FNAF 2 is also missing its face. Huh. I don't know. It's interesting because Withered Bonnie is the animatronic possessed by the missing children's incident Jeremy, and then another Jeremy ended up cutting off his face. Now, I don't think it means anything, or maybe if it was intended or just a coincidence, but knowing the series, I'm worried that the smallest detail can have the biggest consequences. Hopefully, they can explain the recurring name in the movie so that we can all just like take a breather and have that load off of our backs, but I don't know. I can't look at people with the name Jeremy the same way anymore. There's a Jeremy in the office. I can't look him in the eye. Straight up. I can't look anyone in the eye, but that's the social anxiety. Getting close to the end of number 3, Kasey. Kasey is the main character in a Fazbear Fright story that I don't think we've talked about much in detail. I might have mentioned the story here and there, but I don't think there's ever been like a whole number on it, except for like one time where I've talked about roughly the same concept. Kasey appears in the Fazbear Fright story Dance With Me from Step Closer, the 4th Fazbear Frights book. She ends up stealing some glasses that when worn either reveal or display a Ballora animatronic dancing. Honestly, this is the first character that I put on the list, and the reason that I really wanted this list to happen, since the entire story revolves around how she was almost a victim of Ballora. Now, don't get me wrong, the story is very unclear in this regard, but it's generally assumed that the ending does imply that the little girl who gets the glasses back got snatched by Ballora, who spent the entire story slowly getting closer to Kasey every time she put on the glasses. She returns the glasses to the woman who owned them, and then when her daughter puts them on, she starts dancing. And knowing the series, I highly doubt that it's because she's excited to see a 7-foot tall Ballora animatronic dancing right in front of her. Kasey was very nearly caught by Ballora, instead having a little girl take her place, so yeah. I hope that she shows up in the FNAF movie because, first of all, Afton absolutely built those glasses because we all know how he felt about Ballora. So it's still a victim of Purple Guy, still a William Afton victim, so calm your tits in the comments. But I don't know, I want this explained because, yeah, I've been confused about it. But ultimately, into number 2, Susie. Susie was the first to die in the missing children's incident, which is pretty horrifying when you think about it, but also kind of liberating if you think about it in another way. Horrifying because, like, you get killed out of nowhere and that sucks bad, but also liberating because while yes, you're dead, you're also dead. And you don't really have to worry about anything else, okay? I suppose not in this case, since they go on to possess the animatronics, but like, they don't have to worry about anything in their future, right? Just getting revenge, that's their only purpose. And honestly, that kind of sounds like the life. Not having to pay rent, and just doing everything in your power to stop a serial killer, that's like my kind of vacation. But I digress. Being the first to die is a pretty serious thing. We know that she was the first thanks to Withered Chica's voice line in Ultimate Custom Night. Keep in mind that the Withered animatronics are the original ones after being decommissioned when the restaurant closes prior to FNAF 2, since FNAF 2 is still a prequel and the first games in the it's a whole lot. But the Withered animatronics are the ones we see in FNAF 1. And considering how the chairs and like the clapper boards seen in the BTS photos say bad cupcake, Susie is a very likely appearance in the movie, possibly even a focal point. So yeah, maybe this is a love story between Mike and Toy Chica, so I can vicariously live through him. And finally, in number 1, Crying Child. Okay, now this one is certainly going to be a bit controversial. There's going to be people mad at me in the comments, but there's no way that I could have done this list without mentioning one of the greatest debates of my DMs ever. The amount of people who message me on Instagram on a regular basis about the bite of 83 and how it wasn't William's fault bothers me to my core. They also keep saying that it's the bite of 87. It's not. Okay, they're two different things. I say this every time I bring it up though, the bite of 83 is not a spring lock failure. It could not have been. The reason I know it wasn't a spring lock failure is because the Fredbear suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning no spring locks could have had a chance of failing, since a spring lock failure refers to when the mechanisms are being forced to stay open, and then the failure is when they close on you when you're inside the suit, okay? Plus, there's no spring lock mechanisms in the jaw, and it wouldn't need it anyway, because like the jaw just moves up and down. I don't know what else to say. It would have had to be super powered in order to actually crush a skull, something that only William would be able to integrate, considering how he made the robots and is the suit technician. Alright, it's fairly cut and dry at this point. I don't know why people are still yelling at me in my DMs, but it's happening. I don't know, it could have been that he planned on using the Fredbear suit first as like his murder suit, and then his son got killed in it, and then he was like, yeah, maybe not, but who knows. And speaking of spring lock suits, how about you switch to one of the videos popping up on screen now? Thanks for watching.